We're here at Burger and Butcher in Sparta, New Jersey with Josh Hertzberg. Josh, thanks for having us. First of its kind in the area.
Definitely, okay. Without a doubt.
What makes it the first of its kind here in Sparta?
I would say it's probably first of its kind in the whole country. Maybe not first, but first in a new type of restaurant that focuses on healthy ingredients, making everything from scratch, no processed food. The way I want to eat at home, the food I want my family eating, it's one of the first, especially in New Jersey. I will say, I don't know if you've ever heard of Seed Oil Scout, but it's one of the apps that you can go and try and find other healthy restaurants. We were number 2 in the state of New Jersey.
And that, I recall from talking to you a while back, was your vision, kind of the most important part of what you wanted for this restaurant. Is that right?
100%. After I kind of went on my health journey, I felt like I struggled to find places that I felt good about taking my family out to eat. And, I had this amazing opportunity here, but I had zero experience. So, it was a little frightening trying to take on a new business with a full-time job with no restaurant experience. And you always hear how it's got one of the highest failure rates of any kind of business. But I knew what I wanted, and I figured, no guts, no glory, right? You give something you believe in a shot, and you hope that it resonates with other people, and it did.
How do you do that? How do you go from a vision about healthy eating, clean eating, you have an idea of what you would want when you go out, to actually opening, as you say, one of the riskiest challenges as a small business owner, opening, and then 2.5 years, here you still are succeeding at this?
I would say first, you have a lot of faith, right? You have a belief that the universe is if you're trying to do the right thing for the right reasons, that things are going to work out. And then you put it kind of in God's hands, so to speak. You do all your work, right? You do all your homework you can. You build an amazing team, which I am so blessed to have amazing people. And it took 6 months of sitting at that table right there every day, just going through everything, researching, finding companies that had the products you were looking for. And, opening day was just one of those things that, you have your fingers crossed and you hope that your timing's right. This was 2.5 years ago. Now you see all over social media, all over everything, talking about, the poisons in the regular food stuff and the processed foods and all the issues with our food systems. 2.5 years ago, people weren't talking about it like that. So I knew that our food was going to be more expensive than your general burger place, because that's just what the ingredients cost. And I hoped that understanding of the difference, and, bringing vendors like Pat LaFrida and Balthazar from places that are generally known in the city to Sparta, and I didn't bring it. Mohawk House had Pat LaFrida here way before I did, but that kind of quality, I hope that would resonate with people.
That original vision, has it changed, or have you had to adapt to not only the challenges of getting a restaurant up and running, but doing it in the way that you just described, where emphasis on quality, healthy eating, has it changed? Has it morphed at all from now to, say, 2.5 years ago?
Definitely. When we started, we had a very small menu, and I wanted to be really good at what we did first. And I didn't want to try and do too much and be mediocre at everything. So we kind of started small, and then we said, okay, what else can we do in our way? How else can we make another dish that's done the way that we do it, to the highest level? And we started adding things a little bit at a time. We still don't have a huge menu, and I don't ever want that. But we did. There were challenges. There were challenges about finding other vendors and going out and find local. When we introduced our BLT, it was from the farmers market here in Sparta. We went and we found local vendors that had all the products that we wanted, and we built it that way. And that's the cool thing for me about spring and summer, is that we get to start going out to the farms again and sourcing some of that stuff.
How about the nuts and bolts of getting started, opening? A restaurant is one thing, and it has its own unique challenges, but you're opening a commercial establishment in a small town like Sparta. I suspect from my work, in that area that presents its own unique set of circumstances and challenges. And I'm sure, at least I think you may have experienced that as well.
Yeah, some of the regulatory, I would say almost regulatory indifference, right? You get these documents and you're like, okay, I'm just going to read the instructions and I'm going to do what they tell me. And then you realize so much of it is not very detailed and it leaves you guessing. And, I would say we guessed wrong a few times and it delayed us. And when you open a business and you're paying rent and you're buying product and all of a sudden you have this start date in mind and now all this regulatory stuff has pushed you back, it hurts, especially, for my first restaurant, my budget was tiny and, I wish I knew now what I knew then. And I thought it was going to be a matter of going through the paperwork the town gives me, read it through, turn it all in. In this next version that we're looking at, I'm going to make sure that I have good guidance. And you don't know what you don't know. Especially me, I think I can do everything. And I tried, and I learned a lot of good lessons. But some of the things I learned was that, one, and I'm sure you can attest to this, every town is so remotely different. And everyone has their own little nuances and regulations and rules. And, my start date at the next place I want to open is going to be even more important because there's a lot more money on the table that I stand to lose if I don't get it right.
What was the biggest regulatory challenge to open in Sparta, New Jersey?
I would say it's just the rules of the town as far as all the paperwork that you have to turn in, that all have to meet these pre-existing, and I mean, I'll say the sign. I went off, I knew what the regulations were for this building because the business next door who owns the building, they had already gone through it. Mm-hmm. So, and I knew what the rules were based on, some of the documentation, but they're very vague. And so I said, all right, well, if I know they got their signs approved, I will follow their rules because they had the same sides of the building, same dimensions, everything. Well, then I hear a comment back from the town that somebody drove by and looked at their signs and they thought their signs were out of dimension, so mine must be. Wow, I'm like, you must have x-ray vision. You figured that out from driving by? And so stuff like that was very frustrating, feeling like now I'm going to have to go justify this, which, I did all the measurements. I did all the due diligence. But again, I made an assumption and, I wish I would have done a little more homework and had some more guidance from people that do this for a living. Because, having worked within the town in a different way, I saw the struggles of some small businesses. That was kind of like one of the things that I really took on when I worked in the town was helping small businesses because I saw, if you're a big business, you go through this process and you've kind of done it 100 times, you know what to do. As a small business, you're lost and you're dependent on the paperwork the town gives you unless you find somebody to help walk you through it.
And you had that experience. You worked for the town, right? You were an elected official here in Sparta. So, big difference between reviewing this type of application or any sort of regulatory oversight and then actually going through it yourself.
Right. And, I know me and you had talked offline that, I was very careful in the beginning because I didn't want there to be any kind of weird feelings from township employees who were reviewing something that came from me. So my name was out of everything. I wanted it just to be a regular business coming into town like they would, like you would treat a regular business. And it was eye-opening. It was eye-opening. I mean, I heard story after story after story from businesses and really tried to try and fix things to make it easier for them. But having gone through it myself, it's a different story. It's not easy.
So let's talk a little bit about the good stuff here, the menu, all these great products that you're referring to, great ingredients in them. What is featured here at Burger and Butcher? What do you want the viewers to really know, to take away from your menu? We're thinking about experiencing it for the first time or coming back.
So, I mean, the main thing, my mantra here, and these guys, all the work in the kitchen, they all know, is if I'm going out to a restaurant with my family, I'm like a private investigator. I want to know every detail of every ingredient and everything. We pay attention to that stuff down to the smallest detail. Our sauces are all handcrafted. The guys make them every day. We get our meats from Pat LaFrida, one of the most renowned butchers in the country. Our bread, 100-year-old French bakery out of Manhattan. Every detail we pay attention to. And I just want people to know that to me, it's not just a burger, right? It is what my kids eat 3-4 times a week sometimes. Our fries are cut in-house every day in 100% pastured beef tallow. You hear a lot of people talking about beef tallow now, but not all tallow is created equal. So much of it is processed with chemicals. Right? People don't like the smell of it. It's cheaper to mass process it. It's more expensive to get it the right way. And so all those details are super important to us, even to the milk, which is grass-fed and organic milk that we use in our milkshakes, local ice cream. Like, I could go on and on, but those are the details that are important to me. I mean, this is silly. The soap that's in our bathrooms is a local guy who is super crazy, like one of our regulars, so he's crazy like me. The ingredients in that soap are off the charts. And like, I come out of the bathroom going, I can't believe how good that soap feels. And I never thought I'd care about soap, but it's just, those details are important to me now.
And I'm looking over your shoulder here at the coolers, and so it's burger and butcher.
Right.
Right. So there's also the ingredients, the raw ingredients, the meats, things like that you can get here as well if you're into more preparing at home, right?
Yeah, my in-laws, my brother and sister-in-law, like I see them here twice a week getting the cheese. New School American, created by a chef on the West Coast who was like, nobody, I don't know if you know, American cheese is complete garbage. It's processed, not even real cheese. They call it cheese food. This guy was like, we can do better. And he created a product that's real cheese. But when I think of a burger, I think of American cheese. And I knew it was garbage. And up until almost 2 weeks before opening, I didn't know what I was going to do. And all of a sudden, I hear about his product, and they're great company, great people. And we've been lucky. We have, this whole thing is full of great partners. The meat on the end, local farm in Branchville, meat that I bought my family for the last, 7 years, because I found them at the farmer's market here in Sparta, probably 10 years now. And all my friends would be like, where do you get your meat? Because I would, they know I'm nuts. And I would tell them all the time, like, it's kind of too far. So I was like, how cool would it be for now all these people that want to do this to make it easy for them, easy to feed their family healthy.
And you now have the Sparta, Sussex County community, but I think you told me before, you have people coming from miles around to come here or put orders in here.
We've become a destination. I mean, you asked me earlier, like, what are some of the things you would never expected? Never in a million years did I expect it to take off the way it has and that we would be a destination. I remember one of the guys was like, hey, that couple just drove from Maryland. And I walk and I introduce myself, and she's like, oh, you're the guy from the video. And I told you I don't do many of these, but people travel, from Maryland. People told me they were going for a wedding up in Vernon, and they came here on the way home because they heard about us on social media and the way we do things. And our clientele that believe what we believe, they are super loyal, and they're willing to travel to feed their family healthy food.
What's next for this location, and perhaps any plans for other locations?
Yeah, so, that was the biggest questions we got for 2 years. When are you opening more? When are you going to be closer to me? Because we have families, we have one family almost every Sunday, they come from Morristown, their whole family. We had families that every other week were coming from the Bronx. Wow. And, for me, this was a labor of love, but I wanted to do it in my hometown. This is where my friends and my family and all the people I love are. But now there's so many more people that have come that are like, hey, we would love to have you closer. So now we're going to try and start branching out a little bit. Hopefully it looks like Somerville will be our next location, then maybe one a little further south. But, we're trying to get them closer and spread, what we're doing to other places.
So we talked a little bit about expansion.
Yep.
You're hoping for the next location and maybe some thereafter. Obviously a big step, an important step. You want to keep this running the way it has been, and what's been successful here, and not lose any of that while stepping into a new location. How do you do that? I imagine you need help, and it's going to be your fingerprint on a new location, but you can't be, as you said before, you tried to do everything as yourself when you were opening here in Sparta.
So, my lease here was I think 6 pages, 7 pages, and they were friends. And there were things that have come up where, there was a lot of things wrong with the building, and we fixed a lot. had some debates, but again, I'm very lucky that they're great guys and they've always done the right thing by us. The next place we're looking at, big developer, great people, family owned. I mean, everything about it is where we want to be, but it's a 63-page lease. And, it's a lot more money. It's a big risk for us, as a family. So I learned my lesson, and now I need the help. I need somebody who's a professional. I need advice. I need legal consultation. I need somebody to go in there and be like, do you not understand what this means? What I've learned is some of that stuff, I read it and I thought I understood it, but I didn't. And so to have somebody be able to check that stuff and be able to give me guidance, you need it when you go to the next level.
Yeah, I imagine that also there are things you can expect, and maybe they don't turn out the way that you expected, but you work through them as a business. I think one thing that's important to know, and we like to harp on with clients and prospective clients, is once that document is done, it's not something that you're going to work through and change later on.
Right.
Maybe there'll be some reason to go back and amend or modify later, but it's more of something where you need to know everything that, as you said before, you don't know what you don't know. Those are the things you need to know before putting your signature on that document. And so that's very helpful. Burger and Butcher in Sparta, check it out. Also, Josh and Burger and Butcher's social media, check that out as well. A lot to see, a lot more to learn about what Josh was talking about with respect to the ingredients, his vision for here and how it's been carried out, and look also too for great things to come in new locations.